Right. Yes, I see you, Karen. I'm promoting you right now.
And Miss Beaton, zoning administrator, is also
Yes.
there.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thanks, Christian.
You are very welcome.
Yeah, my Zoom is updating, so I just was
Yeah,
like, let me use my phone. Thank you. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I'm good.
That's excellent.
It was gloomy this morning, but it's very nice now. So
It's never gloomy. It's never gloomy.
yeah,
It's just
I like that. I like that outlook.
right. It's never gloomy. It's just, hey, it's just a little overcast just for you to enjoy your day. Never gloomy.
Um, all right. I think it's 6:32. I know that I think we still have some folks joining us from the committee.
Christian, was there an agenda? Did I miss it? Did
No, you did not miss the agenda. We
uh,
finalized it this morning.
Christian,
So
congratulations on your chairpersonship.
thank you. Thank you. Um, oh, great. Okay, so yes, that is a good question, Frank. We do have an agenda. I'll go over it when we start, just so that we all are operating off the same page. But we finalized it this morning, so I apologize in advance that it was not sent out.
And do we have Howard joining us today?
We do.
Okay, great.
We do have Howard joining us later. We don't have any cases to discuss. So there's no new material to go over. But we do have a couple of folks joining us to present. Um, so I want to get us started. We're about 3 minutes in, and I'm going to welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to our April 21st ZPD meeting. My name's Christian Brandt, and I'm the acting chair at the moment, so I'll be leading us through this meeting today. And just before we dive into the good nitty-gritty, I'm going to take some roll call. So, is Commissioner Kensek here? No, I'm here. Jason Bello.
Here.
Karen Brueggemann. Frank Chauvin.
here?
Karen Gall.
Present.
Simon Handelman. No. Ian Hawksworth. Joel Heisey.
Present.
Nanye Hong. No. Daniel Kramer. And Alex Smith. No, and I don't see any of those folks in the audience. I do want to ask one very quick question, just because this is my first committee meeting. Do we need to reach a quorum to proceed?
Before we start, I didn't hear mine.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bruce.
Okay, but I'm here. Hi.
You are here, and you're for some reason not on my list. But
Well,
I'm glad you're here.
since we're not doing any business, I don't think it really matters.
Okay, great.
You have to have a quorum if you're going to do a vote. If you don't have a quorum, then you can just do miscellaneous items.
Fabulous. We are not going to be doing a vote today, so I think we're in good shape.
Uh,
Yes, Frank.
Somebody might put forward a motion. I mean, there's no scheduled business, but there might be a motion.
Oh, I see. Karen.
So-
More than enough here.
Yeah. I think we have.
Yes, we do now. Fabulous. Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm going to quickly go over the agenda, and then I will turn it over to Chair Duramo, and then for a quick update, and then we'll sort of dive into our business. So the agenda for today is first a short presentation from Alex Cross, joining us from the Department of Buildings, followed by a discussion with our zoning administrator, Kathleen Beaton. And then we will end the meeting with a presentation from Teresa Edmondson and the Howard University Real Estate Initiatives and Capital Asset Management team, just updating us about the new Howard University Hospital. And for those of you who are who were attended the last time we discussed that, the Howard University Hospital, this will be familiar to you, but I know we have a bunch of new members, and so it's worth going over that again. So that is our agenda. As I mentioned, this is my first meeting as chair, so I appreciate your patience in advance as we get through this meeting, and we do have some pretty meaty topics to discuss. So I'm going to try to keep us on a good schedule, and I'll try to make sure that everybody who would like to participate is able to participate. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Chair Duramo, who will give everyone a quick update and welcome us.
Hey, I'm just helicoptering here for a second to welcome Christian to his first meeting as interim chair. I believe everyone was copied on an email I sent out last week letting you know that Commissioner Kensick had stepped down as the chair of ZPD. I'm incredibly happy that he had appointed a vice chair and a very competent one at that. So there was a very seamless transition over the past 7 to 10 days where Christian took the reins and caught up on some pending matters, and here he is executing beautifully. So I just wanted to join and say thank you to Christian for being ready. He was just standing on deck, swinging his 2 baseball bats to warm up the whole time. So he's ready to go. He has our complete confidence. I do intend to move his permanent appointment at our May 1st commission meeting. Very certain that he can finish out the term and deliver great things. So if there are any questions about the transition, you can email me anytime. You can ask them right now. Incredibly grateful to Alan for his leadership. I think he started from pretty much scratch. I know, Patrick, you were involved in lots of very long working days, and I think a couple nights with Alan just catching up on past correspondence and what the committee needs to do. I think the guest speakers that were invited were pretty uniformly believed to be informative and a great way to start the term on this committee. So please keep building from there. If there's anything I can do to support, I'm always here. But go to Christian first, because it's his job now. And just a quick note about the chat. I actually had to remind myself that quorum is actually 1/3 of the appointed committee members, not the usual 1/2 rule. So you guys are good to go.
Great. All right, thank you, Chair. Okay, so I think we can get started with our first presentation. So I will ask Alex to get us started.
Good evening, commissioners and everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Alex Cross. I'm the Chief of Staff at the Department of Buildings. And I was asked to come tonight to give a brief overview of the Department of Buildings. I think we have some information that'll be helpful for you and your residents and the commissioners not on the committee around the services that DOB provides. So I'm going to share my, okay, I can't share my screen. Would you like me to? I think you need to give me permission.
Yes, I didn't, since you're a panelist, you should be able to share, but it might be in the sort of more button sometimes, depending on how you.
It tells me that the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, interesting. Just give me 1 second.
Can you right click and make him co-host?
Yes, I'm just going to do that. That's easier than doing what I was going to do.
I won't abuse my co-host.
I trust that you won't. All right, you should be ready to share.
There it is. Thank you. All right. So okay, you can see that. Great. Okay, everyone. So this is DOB overview. real quick for us, we're going to go over the mission and vision, quick overview, and then a couple key points on inspections that I think will be very helpful. And then I have in here the zoning administrator to talk about 911, 913 U Street and anything else that she needs to talk about. So the mission of the DOB is to protect the safety of the built environment. The director's vision, as you may hear Director Hanlon say often, who is our director, Director Brian Hanlon, is to keep it safe, keep it green, keep it moving. Okay, that's the three mantra we live by. Ensure safety of the built environment, green the city through sustainable code development and environmentally sound practices, and catalyze economic development, keeping it moving by reducing friction in the permitting process to ensure that we can get our buildings built and our businesses open on time to start generating revenue and serving our residents. So a quick overview of what we do. You may hear these terms. The Office of Construction and Building Standards oversees 6 functions. They oversee permitting, construction compliance, building inspections, green building, and third-party inspections. That's led by our chief building official, who is Nicole Rogers. Okay. We have this Office of Zoning Administration, which is ran by our zoning administrator, Kathleen Beaton. They handle building permits. They do zoning checks for all building permits, all certificates of occupancy, subdivisions, home occupation permits. The Office of the Surveyor is also in the zoning administrator vertical, and the office also represents DOB in appeals made to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. We have the Office of Residential Inspection. Office of Residential Inspection does something I think near and dear to all ANC commissioners in the district's hearts, which is vacant and blighted property inspections. They also do rental housing inspections, which is when tenants put in complaints to DOB about their units having some issues, and our inspectors go to people's units and inspect and issue violations if they see them. And we also do housing rehabilitation. So we do abate vacant property, we abate occupied property. If there are, high weeds, or if there's an open door on a property, we'll board it up, close it off. So we'll paint walls if need be. We just did one on Georgia Avenue. So we do also abate property maintenance code violations. And finally, we have the Office of Strategic Code Enforcement, responsible for code enforcement, all infractions, fine assessments. We also have a team called the Alternative Resolution Team, which if you have a violation or someone has a violation, you can, in the process of abating that violation, you could talk to our Alternative Resolution Team and to see if those fines or violations can be brought down if you're acting in good faith, to make sure that, keeping it moving. So quick touch on DOB by the numbers, right? We are a largest, agency of 350 or so employees. FTE count, in the budget. And every year we have over 400,000 touches. Okay. What does that mean? Last year, we performed over 87,000 inspections, almost 88,000 inspections. You can see 42,000 housing inspections, 28,000 construction, 11,000 vacant property. We also issued 54,600 permits, which is a lot of permits, a little bit down from what it used to be. Used to be around 60,000, typically was the norm. With COVID, it kind of dropped a bit, and now we're kind of stabilizing around this 55,000 mark. 15,000 construction permits is the big one, and 2,500 C of O's, certificates of occupancy. Those are places opening up. We've issued 13,000 notices of infraction, 7,000 housing, 5,000 proactive, 250 for vacant property, and 670 for illegal construction. We had, should I be answering questions throughout, or do you want to wait to the end of the presentation? You let me know.
I think, why don't we go get through the presentation, and then we can turn to audience and commissioner questions.
Okay.
But I see Krishna has his hand raised, so we'll make sure to get to those.
Yeah, so we issued 3,500 vacant property notices, and we had over 250,000 customer inquiries. We talk and deal with the public a lot. And that just goes to show how much that we've been doing. So I want to give you just an idea of the range of outputs that DOB has every year. Our role in development, it's kind of a continuum, right? Permitting is plan review and zoning. Want to plug our concept review. So we offer this free service, which was before you get into your design drawings. if you would like to come and talk to us, if you have any questions about possible zoning issues or a code question, you can come in and talk to us free of charge, and we will walk you through some of the areas that maybe you can tweak your plan around the margins, or in general, to help you save you time and money. We don't want you to come in, get a design done, come in, drop your plans off, well, electronically now, and get us to reviewing them and us having to mark it up and say, wow, this really needs a lot of work. We wish you would have talked to us earlier. We could have solved this. So concept review is something we're doing. Then, while it's under construction, when your building receives that permit, you're under construction, we do construction inspections and certificate of occupancy inspections. We have been enhancing our third-party inspections this year through a new dedicated quality assurance, quality control program. And once someone has built a building, and particularly a residential property, and it becomes a multifamily residential property, we do housing inspections and we abate violations throughout the city. And we have begun a proactive outreach with landlords. Typically, the landlords are the larger ones that you may know their names. We've begun proactive outreach because what we saw earlier this year was that there were some landlords who had a lot of violations, and we kind of triggered why do they have so many violations? These aren't your typical bad actor landlords. And when we reached out, they said, well, we didn't get any of those NOIs because, there was a wrong email address entered 6 years ago. So we actually started this proactive abatement. In last year, there was 24,000 violations abated and 8,400 directly tied to this proactive outreach. So that's, 24,000 violations that were in someone's unit or in their home that were abated, that we, this proactive outreach had a nice role in. So I'm going to go real quick through the services we provide. We do illegal construction inspections. Any construction without required permits is illegal. If you see illegal construction activity, you can go to our illegal construction inspection request form at dob.dc.gov. You can also call 311. We will inspect the property within 4 business days. Legal construction hours, Monday to Saturday, 7 to 7. So if there's work getting happened on Sunday or any other day between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m., that's illegal construction. You can let us know and report it. So yeah, and if you want to do outside, customers need to get a special permit to do work outside those hours. Enforcement of illegal construction, we have a couple tools in our toolbox. We have a stop work order, which is just what it says. We post it, and all work has to stop until the conditions that cause the stop work order are taken care of. In some instances, we do issue what's called a limited work authorization, meaning if there's a stop work order, but there is a condition on the site that needs to be remedied, we allow the owner to fix that one issue, and then the stop work order will continue until the rest of the conditions are met to lift the stop work order. We also have correction order, which is another step in the process. Correction order is a mandate to address a violation code. We make the owner give us a time frame, give us a plan, and we follow up on these correction orders. That's a little bit more severe when there's a little more of a severe issue. And notices of infraction, we issue those a lot. Those are often connected with housing and property maintenance, but in legal construction we issue them as well. If work is being done outside of the permit, we give a notice of infraction, which comes with a fine and a requirement to fix in a certain amount of days, and then a correction order can follow as well as a stop work order. So vacant property inspections, moving on. Vacant and blighted properties must be registered with DOB. A vacant property is one that is vacant, does not have a resident, if it's an office building, doesn't have anyone working there. A blighted property, on the other hand, is a vacant property that is unsafe or threatens the health and safety of the community. So any sort of vacant or blighted property you have, you can also go to our website. We'll perform an inspection within 5 business days. You can call 311 as well. And on our website, we have a dashboard. We have a dashboard which has a lot of DOB data, and we can share that at the end. But we also have, as part of that dashboard, we have a vacant property map, which shows every single vacant, blighted property in the district. This is just a screenshot. I can't interact with it, but it'll tell you how long it's been vacant for, what the address is, SSL, give you a lot of information, so you know exactly what properties there are in your commission, and that is updated daily as properties come onto the list of vacant property. They fall off the list because they got someone to live in there, or they got an exemption. They may fall off, so that's updated daily. And then our last inspection we'll talk about is residential inspections. As I said before, we enforce the property maintenance code. We respond to tenant complaints. We are a complaint-based agency. We don't have someone driving around looking for these infractions, so you have to let us know. But if something is happening, if anyone living in apartment buildings, like, I'm pretty sure there's some pretty large apartment buildings in your commission, if they're having issues with their landlord, we typically ask that you ask the landlord first to fix the issue in your unit, right? Because if you just call us, we're going to say, did you ask the landlord to fix it? And to say, yeah, the landlord won't fix it. It's been, 10 days. They won't fix it. That's when you call us. And then we'll send an inspector out. If you have major systems not working, like no water, no heat, those are immediate things to call us on. Those are emergencies. You let us know if there's something going on, and we will send an inspector out. I am the ANC liaison and for all ANCs, and I often get complaints sent directly to me. So what I typically do when I get them is I will ask for information, and then I can put in a request on your behalf. But I'm only one person. So we ask, that for ANC commissioners, for example, if you get to learn our systems and our complaint forms, that you can, react faster and make sure that, things that you have and that you see can get put in real time. What to expect if there's an inspection. If we find a housing code violation, there'll be a notice of infraction issued. We have two types of notice of infraction: emergency or routine. NOIE, which is the emergency, required to be fixed in 24 hours. Examples of those are like a fire alarm that's not working, a sink that's unusable, no heat, no water, life safety issues. And then routine are required to be fixed in 60 days. Like it says here, peeling paint, landscaping issues, the things that aren't an immediate threat to life safety, but are still a violation of the property maintenance code. And after the abatement period, DOB will re-inspect. If violations are not abated, DOB will pursue additional enforcement. Staying in the know, this is our dashboard. And I really encourage everyone to go to this dashboard and take a look. We have a lot of great information here, a lot of property specific information. For example, what you're seeing here is a violations dashboard where you can go to a property, you can look up by owner, you can look up by address, and you can see all the violations, I think back to 2018 or 2015 or so, at a property. And you can go back if there's a problem property in your neighborhood, you can then see, oh wow, they have a lot of violations. Or we also have all of our permit stats, inspection stats. We have a vacant property dashboard, like I mentioned before, and we have performance measures and economic drivers as well on there. So that's the end of this presentation. I saw some hands raised, but I also want to make sure that Kathleen has enough time to talk about what she came here to talk about. So with that, I'll stop screen sharing.
Thanks, Alex. I know we have 3 folks with hands raised for your presentation, so I want to do provide some time for those folks to ask their questions. And I know Krishna has very patiently waited. He had his hand up pretty early on, so I'm going to start with Krishna, and then we'll go to the 2 committee members who have the 3 committee members who have their hands up, and then we'll sort of go through this list. I do, like Alex was mentioning, we do have some other folks who are here to present, so I want to be mindful of their time as well. So I just, in advance of this, ask that we try to be brief and pithy and direct with our questions, and get to the question as soon as we can. And I will try to sort of facilitate us through this. So if you find that I'm unmuting to encourage us to move forward into the question, that is my attempt for us to make sure that everyone who wants to is able to speak. So I'm going to start with Krishna, and then we'll go to the panelists, and then we'll go back to the audience. All right, so Krishna, you should be able to unmute.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Christian, thank you very much. I'm sorry for jumping ahead of the panelists here. I'm actually on the ANC 1B Economic Development Committee, so I understand that panelists should get priority. So I very much appreciate that. Alex, thank you for coming. I'm here tonight to wanted to talk to you about the building collapse at the 1111 and 1113 V Street site that occurred over Christmas. Just in case the committee is not aware of this site, there was a death fatality there. And I had come to the full ANC meeting in January to try to talk to Nicole about it. Since then, after a number of complaints, bracing has been put up at the site, and the site certainly looks more secure. The question that I had for Alex is, I am trying to understand when the post-action report is going to be released to the public. Because when Nicole had come into the ANC at January, it sounded like it was going to be on a 90-day time frame. From what I can discern, Director Hanlon had said to Commissioner Mendelson, Councilmember Mendelson on this, that you've had to go out and hire an outside expert on that. So I'm trying to understand when the timeline for this release and whether we will be able to get this back and get this information at the ANC level. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Just to, want to make sure we're all clear. I'm not the chief building official, so it's hard for me to talk in detail about this issue, the tragic collapse and the worker death that occurred at 1111 V Street. I don't have a timeline for when this post-action report can be released. That's just because I don't have it. I could talk a bit about what DOB has done so far and what we're going to do to prevent these things as best as we can from happening again. Like you mentioned, we required that bracing be put up at the site. It has since been put up to secure the site. There's a correction order, stop work order at this property. It is not, being lifted at this time. I don't know the specifics on the conditions of lift the stop work order, but I know it is still in force. So if you see work happening at this site, that is an immediate call to me, as an immediate call to call Nicole. That's an immediate call because they're not allowed to be doing any work outside of that bracing, which they did. What DOB did in terms of being proactive to prevent these things from happening, we issued an administrative bulletin to our third-party inspection agencies. Just for those who don't know, there are third-party inspection agencies that do inspections for developers. DOB oversees the program. We do about 25% of inspections by DOB employees, and the 75% are done by third parties. They have to give us reports, and we oversee that program. We issued an administrative bulletin to make sure that they were ensuring that the sequencing that was given by the engineers and that was approved in the plans was being followed. That administrative bulletin is on our website, and we've been meeting with the third-party inspection agencies to make sure they are aware of this. We have done multiple inspections at the site. We will continue to do multiple inspections. We're going to require that the property owner continues to monitor the integrity of the structure, the party wall, and do that through 3D monitoring to make sure that it's not just looking at it like, okay, it looks like it's fine. No, we're going to make sure that they're being held accountable to make sure that this stays safe. So that's what I have in terms of what DOB has done for this property and in general.
Can I just ask you a quick follow-up on that?
Yes, please go ahead, Krishna.
And just Alex, this is really more to pick your brain. I'm not trying to nail you down on this. From what I can tell, the original building permit will expire in July of this year. And if there's there's a number of outstanding violations that DOB has issued and other things, and we still are waiting for this post-action report. What will happen to that original building permit in July if we have not seen any action on this post-action report, or if there are outstanding violations still on the property?
That is a good question. I don't want to give you a wrong answer. I am not an expert on I know that a building permit is good for 1 year. And if your building permit does expire, you can always, I'm just not saying for this property, but in general, a request can be made to, extend the permit under certain circumstances. This property itself, speaking about this property, the circumstances are very specific. So I can't speak to what'll happen. That's a question for the chief building official, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. I will bring that question to her. I will ask her tomorrow, and I can get back to you all with that response. And Christian, if you don't mind, if you can track questions that we can get back to you on and then let us know, then we can, that's something that definitely, I don't want to, leave this meeting saying, I can't answer, sorry, good luck, everyone. We'll get back to you. With the
Yes,
right.
I will send you an email either tonight or tomorrow morning with the questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Krishna. Okay, next on our list is Karen.
Now that we have two Karens, I know that you are meaning me. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, just want to acknowledge that. Good evening, Alex. Thank you for your great presentation. I have two questions, and it's regards to one is in regards to your dashboard. Of course, I love dashboards. Big fan of all types of dashboards. Now, of course, I go into the filtering process when utilizing the dashboard, and I'm interested in filtering on the vacant and blighted properties specifically for ANC 1B or any other. I want to know, not just as a new user to it, the type of queries that you're able to do. Can I query it by ANCs? Can I query it by ward? Can I query it by police districts? The reason why I'm asking is because vacant and blighted properties often fall into a public safety issue that we have, and I often need to use to find information and to work with property owners. And I need to make sure that there's a way for me to connect directly with some of our problem areas. So in regards to blighted properties, vacant properties, commercial properties that are vacant, and also estate probate type properties. I was wondering if your queries, can you do filtering on all of those type of issues? And I like the fact that you do have the violation abatement section. That's really a great thing to know. And then also the secondary question is construction projects. When you have construction projects, and I mentioned this during our last meeting, construction projects that have become blighted, in their process, and I have one in particular that I am, no one followed up with me, which was a request from our last meeting, but construction projects that have become an actual blighted property has been vacant for a number of years, and that construction project in itself has become a blighted property, not necessarily saying there's people entering it, but it's just an eyesore / it just looks like it needs to have some care. How are you all working? No one followed up, so I really need to know what's the process, the turnaround time on that. And I think those are my only two questions. And I hope that was brief enough, Christian. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you so much, Commissioner Gall. I will start with the second question. That's an easier question. And then this first question, I will show you the dashboard really quickly. So the second question, sorry. If I'm assuming you're talking about a site that was under construction, no longer actively under construction, no longer has permits.
I haven't seen any permits posted. I haven't seen any activity. I actually have a bird's eye view of this property every single day. So I know for a fact there has not been any construction at that site. Yes, sir.
So a property that does not have active permits is not eligible for an exemption. So if we have a vacant property, but you're doing work on it, or someone is doing work on it, there are exemptions that are available, right? You can get a year to do construction exemptions on like a residential property, right? So you can get exemptions. So if there's but you have to have active permits. So if there's no active permits, then, and it's blighted, we'll send somebody out. And at that point, if it's an open site that maybe had construction but no longer is under construction, to me, that's not a construction project. That's just a blighted building. Blighted, the definition is, it's around life safety and health, but typically what we do for blighted property is if it's open and accessible to the elements, because that just causes a host of issues, allows unauthorized
This
entry.
one meets that right there. I can tell you right there.
So I would, first of all, like you to tell me what address that is. You can tell me now, you can tell me later, but we will make sure that address gets handled. Now, to your first question, I almost thought you were like, I want to promise everybody on the call that Ms. Gall is not a plant. I did not plant her here.
No.
But if you can you all see my screen, my
Yes,
website?
we can.
My mouse.
I'm a fan. I'm not a plant.
Good. So you can see the vacant property map.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So the way you can see there's 3,200 total vacant properties. You can select by ward, neighborhood, ANC, everyone's favorite SMD, and police service area. You can also search by address. So what we can do is, what's that address? If you're there.
Oh, you're telling me I didn't want to put anybody on blast.
So you don't have to. If it's here, it's here. If it's here, it's public. Let's see what it is.
Oh God.
If not, it's okay, but we can look it up.
Okay, so I really didn't want to do that because I was thinking, since it's a public meeting, I was going to text you the
You text
address.
me then. But I can, for example, the way you do this, if you wanted to search by a property, go here, uncheck all, because that clicks all. So uncheck all, and then type in a vacant property. So I'll just start typing in a number, say 4 or 5. All right, there you go. Let's go 245 Peabody Street. That's not in your commission. That's actually up near where I live.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, so we'll see what, so now we click on that, you hit apply down here, and this will go, if the internet works fast enough for me. Okay, so then you'll see, and you can click on the address, and then this over here will populate with all the information that you could use about this vacant property. The neighborhood, the ward, the ANC, the SMD, when it was first confirmed vacant. So this was confirmed vacant 1.5 years ago. We have this is gosh, I'm sorry, I'm losing my purse capacity here. This is the like violation number. And then we talk about, what it is. So this is a registered vacant. So it's a class 3 right here. What the classes mean, if it's a vacant property, it's taxed at a higher tax than your typical class 1, which is a residential home that's occupied. Class 3, well, class 1 is taxed at 85 cents on the dollar. That's everyone's home in the district if it's occupied. If it's vacant, it's taxed at $5 per $100 of assessed value, or 5% of the total property value. If it's a blighted property, as a hammer to get people to update their blighted properties are taxed at 10% of the assessed value. So if you have, a $500,000 of assessed value home and it's blighted, that's a $50,000 tax bill, which adds up pretty quick. So that's those are the two, those are the hammers that we have in terms of vacant and blighted tax rates. So text me on the side.
I just did. Check your
okay.
chat. I just put it in there. I figured that you might want to look it up separately, not publicly.
No problem. Got it. Okay, I got it.
I'm really, really happy that you guys have done it by police district, because to me that's extremely important. I mean, as well as the other filters. But I like that we're able. Can you show us how the violation abatement notices work, if you don't mind, if that's not too much, Christian?
No, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm emailing myself that address. Okay, let me get back to the presentation. So let me share my screen again. Right here. So we got to get back to the other dashboards. Okay, when you share, you have like a lot of things going on up here. Okay, so we have the violations and abatement. Let's go to that. Let's hope it lets me go to it. Okay, So this is landlord violations and then housing code violations. Okay. So for this, for example, you can search. Right now, we have it defaulted to this current fiscal year, which started on October 1, 2024. But you can look at any fiscal year or all fiscal years from going back to 2018. So I probably shouldn't click that because it's going to slow us down. But the way this works is we can then you can search any address that has violations. If you know the owner, but you want to see an owner that you want to see all the properties they own, you can go on in here and search by owner. And you can also search by case number if you have that.
Awesome.
Okay. So the way this works, I mean, I won't click on it because it'll go to that processing screen, but basically this is what you'll get. For example, this owner at 1 Petworth Hold Co. LLC, they're at 4709 3rd Place Northwest. Here are their violations. You'll see that there was a violation in 2024, a couple of violations in 2024. So it looks like we inspected this property on February 1st, 2024, and we found a couple of violations. And here's the fine amount. Here's the original fine. Okay, so they didn't maintain their windows in good condition.
Alex,
faster. Yeah, go ahead.
Does it also track DC owned properties as well?
That's a good question. I don't think so. Now we can find out, but I don't. When you say track DC owned properties, you mean DCHA? Because that's what you would
like if it's like it's under DMPAD. If it's a property that's owned by, that's under DC government oversight, like the Lincoln Theater, the Howard Theater, those type of
no, it wouldn't track those. But what I can tell you is that I know the people at DMPAD, the good people at DMPAD, because I used to work at DMPAD. So if you have an issue with the property that's under DMPAD, let me know, and I can reach out to DMPAD. And I've done this before. Recently someone had complained about some tall grass at a DMPAD property, and I reached out, and I think they took care of it. I can't say they did, but I thought they did. So let me know if you have a DMPAD property. Is it the Howard Theater, that Triangle Park right in front of Howard Theater?
625 T Street. That's always been that's one of our properties that we always have a issue with the maintenance of it. We just did a public safety walk over that way the other day. But I just wanted to. That's one of them, but it's a number of different property spaces. I just was curious as to whether the tracking of this actually works on vacant lots and vacant properties. So that's my curiosity. But I don't want to ask any more questions because Christian gave me a stop.
No worries. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen.
Alex, you're gonna be my favorite friend.
Call me whenever.
All right. Thank you, Karen. Thanks, Alex. Frank, you are up next.
Yes, good evening, Alex. Thanks for attending this evening. Question, due process is a big issue around the country, but I'm looking for some due process from DC, particularly with regards to the Office of Administrative Hearings and 5,000 outstanding Department of Buildings violations that have not been adjudicated. And so my question to you is, I think we need to do this a little differently. In the 1900 block of 9th Street, I think you're aware of a place that has a sign. I understand some neighborhood colleagues have spoken to you in the last week about a sign that looks like Las Vegas, looks like a stripper, right next to a residential neighborhood with lots of children. It's been up for a year and a half. It's been through all of the processes, reviewed by HPO, reviewed by DOB, assessed fines, been standing in front of the Office of Administrative Hearings. There's a breakdown here. And so I think we need reform on due process for my community so that we can have upstanding neighbors in the commercial district, due process to other businesses that would like to be in this neighborhood that do comply with the laws and an economic development basis so that people are treated fairly and our city and our services are working for us. So my question is, there's this year and a half outstanding OAH case with 4,999 others from Department of Buildings. How can we get these through? And can you guys add a piece? Because apparently the council isn't taking this seriously, and these thousands of outstanding cases have been going on for years, if not a decade. Can you guys appropriate money when in your yearly cycle to process OAH cases so that it's a line item? Your cases, your work, your department can be adjudicated for the community. The processes and the violations can be adjudicated. That's my first question. Secondly, can you help out on that sign that I think you're aware of and you know of that one of my neighborhood colleagues recently spoke to you about? And then I'm going to jump to my other question, which is another adjudication question. And it has to do with another commercial property in the same strip off of U Street, 1900 block of Nye Street. They acted like a residential building for about 3 years. We're building a building for 3 years under a residential a permit. However, one could tell there were no windows in the building in the back, no windows in the side. And I think one can look and say one needs windows to have a housing development. Well, for 2 years, they were developing 3 years, and they were building a commercial entity that they finally transitioned to a commercial entity, but fooling the community, not being honest with the community. And I worked with DOB clearly with now, I think is now the lead official, the woman in charge of permitting. She used to be, anyway, a woman you referenced. What's that? Mrs. Rogers, yes, Nicole. And she couldn't shut these guys down and make them apply for 2 years, even though all of my neighbors and we were on file with stop work orders. So I'll follow up with you privately on that matter if we can do some work there. But I'm primarily interested in due process for my community and the adjudication of 5,000 outstanding DOB violations. How can we get that done? And specifically my sign that looks like Las Vegas is being disrespectful to the commercial and residential community that it sits in.
So I will say on the issue, the global issue of OAH, at the agency, we would love to see some of these things move faster through the process. It's something we've been working with OAH on to try to find new ways to make it more efficient, because I agree, these cases being outstanding out there, it's not serving the intended use. It's a difficult bear. I think, like you said, budget, like DOB can't appropriate funds on our own budget just because it's, it's at a separate agency that we have to go to. I will make a plug that we all know the issues around the budget now, but the mayor will be releasing the budget soon. And there's opportunities for everyone to have their voices heard. There was also during the budget formulation back in February, and there will be again once the mayor submits her budget soon. And I don't know when it's being submitted. So I'll just tell you that right now, if you're going to ask. So I think there's an opportunity there for you all to have your voices heard and to let, us and the council and everyone know that there's this sort of slowdown in cases being adjudicated. That's not a satisfying answer, but I don't have a better answer for you right now. We have people like that at our agency that we can get you in touch with to talk about other ideas. They may have better ideas than me. They probably do, for ways that we can fix this, because they work on it every day. I don't work in the OAH sphere every day, but a lot of our folks do every day. Our attorneys are there every day as well. On the famous sign, yes. So I am aware. I am talking to our people now about that sign. DOB's enforcement authority, to shut down things often runs into this sort of, is it an unsafe condition or not? Okay. That's when we can shut something down. We can, we did that up in Northeast DC last week. There was a building, it was in deplorable condition. We actually had to shut it down. We had to make the people move out, which we never want to do. But on the case of the sign, My understanding is they got a violation because they didn't get a permit for the sign. So they need to get a permit for the sign. So what I'm going to do is make sure that in the permitting process, the sign regulations are followed to a T, right? Because I was there on Friday night. I saw the sign. I also thought it was not appropriate for any city, right? Let alone that area where there's a lot of families. So I am on the sign issue. I want to let you know that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and so they have to apply for a permit, but they have to get the permit if they apply. So at the end of the day, we'll see how they get that. And on your third question, I'm sorry, I forgot what it was, but I do want to answer it. I can't remember what the third question was.
I don't want to take any more time. I'll follow up with you. I appreciate
can.
your
So
commitment and your civil service here, and thank you for being so open and accommodating. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you all. And again, you all, I believe, have an ANC liaison form or sheet roll call that has my number and my email address. I can put it in the chat also, so anyone can have it. And then
Thanks, Alex.
yeah, so you'll have it. You can always email me or call me.
Frank or Alex, would you be willing to share the address of the location of the sign again, just so that I think Simon was asking for it in the chat? That'd be helpful.
Yeah, it's 1922 9th. One could go online and take a look there. 1924 9th, sorry, Northwest. 1924 9th Street Northwest.
And also, I will say this: if you're out there at night, take a video of the sign, because our inspectors work typically during the day. We have a nighttime duty officer, but they're responding to building emergencies. So, if we send somebody out to inspect the sign, you put a complaint in it, they're going to go out there at 2 p.m. They're not going to see it. They're not going to see what you all see at Friday and Saturday night. So the next time you're out there, if you don't mind, I'm not asking you to do this, but if you don't mind, take a video, send it to me. That way I'll have it, and I can share it with our folks here.
Thanks, Alex. We have Jay.
Christian,
Yes.
I apologize, but if it's an inappropriate sign, in the respect of what it's more pornographic, is that something that we supposed to send? Is that against the law of us sending out those graphic images? I'm just only asking. I don't want to violate anything.
Well, so if that's a question for me, anybody can send anything. And then our inspectors will go by the building code and by the laws of the District of Columbia. So you can report anything you want. Often our inspectors go out to a property that's reported on and they say there's no violation, right? Like someone may say, hey, my neighbor is building something illegally. And our inspector goes out and says, nope, here's the permit, here's the post, here's the scope, no violation. But it's possible there's a violation. So we just need to have all the information we had. That's why I said take a video for me and we'll have all the information we need.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I didn't have, some of the people we were going to have send that information over, because someone had, and it was only through MPD who told us that maybe it would be not a good idea if someone like myself sent it. So that's the reason why, but if someone
Maybe it
is
needs to be
game,
a citizen, yeah. Someone else.
I will say, just as an aside, as a planner, signs are one of the more interesting parts of planning because they abut free speech laws, and so it's really tricky. And there's been a lot of litigation at the national level about controlling signs specifically, which is
and here at DC level too.
Yeah.
Signs it's a tinderbox.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting part of planning if you ever want to get sucked down a rabbit hole. All right, so I will go to Jason next. I do just want to acknowledge that we have two questions, or two questions and one comment in the Q&A. So I will try to get to those after Jason's comment or question.
Yeah. I'm just asking maybe what we can do about better enforcement of things that have been done. What we've found is when there's been illegal construction or when there's some kind of violation, it's been very hard to get those things rectified. So, for example, in LaDroit Park, we have one property that's had an illegal shed built in the front yard. And that has been known for over a year. And there's been no enforcement on it whatsoever. We have other properties that have had construction fences that have remained up, even though construction's long since done. And folks have refused to remove the construction fences, presumably for privacy purposes. And so, what else can we do to get, relatively simple things like this, enforcement action on?
Can I share my screen one more time? I'm not saying you haven't done this, but I want for everyone on the phone, we can,
Yes, go ahead.
I can show you our website, and we have, can you see our website again?
Yeah, but these
Yes.
have all been reported multiple
Oh, they
times.
have been reported? Okay.
Yep.
And
And there's no enforcement.
so when you say, okay, so
It's just
without
the
knowing
stuff is still
specifics,
there, right? I mean, I don't
Right.
know what's happening in the background, but like it's been over a year in these cases.
without knowing the specifics of the address or the case, I can't comment on, the level of enforcement that has or has not been done. Like I said earlier, it's possible that there was no violation found. And again, I'm not talking about the shed. I'm talking about in general. So I don't know. You can share with me those addresses.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I can find out. For everyone else on the call, really quick, if you need to report anything, you come to our dob.dc.gov, and this is our 1, 2, 3 menu, we call it. And you can go to I need to report, I need to request, I need to apply or find. So if you want to report, and then you can go to what do you want to report? Illegal construction, abatement, property maintenance, vacant property. So say you want to report illegal construction, click that, click report now. And this takes us to the illegal construction inspection request form. And then you just fill everything out. It's a couple pages. It's going to ask you a lot of questions about the property to give us all the information we need before we go out. And then we'll schedule it. And the good thing about this, and this I mentioned earlier, like you can call me, and I do this all the time for residents, for ANCs, where I'll fill this out for you. But when I fill it out, the emails come to me like, hey, Inspector, Johnson's going to come out on Thursday at 10 a.m. That doesn't help you because I'm the one getting the information. And then I have to find a way to share it with you. So it's easier always if you fill out the form, because then, or your constituents, and then all the emails and everything will come to them. And it's not just the inspection time, it's also the result. It'll say violations were found, notice of infraction number XYZ was issued. So these are the forms that I talked about earlier. It's always great, for you all to fill them out and to show this to the constituents, because that way, we'll get more of them if you give them to them, and the information will stay with you, and you'll have all the information you need as the process of enforcement, occurs.
Thanks, Alex. Jason, did you have any other follow-ups?
No, thank you for being here, Alex.
Patrick.
Alex, I'll probably send you an email or give you a phone call, but in your presentation, you were talking about rental properties and inspections of rental properties. I've lived in my house for 30 plus years. The house 2 doors down from me is owned by an older man who has property all around the city and has been rented since I've moved in here through the voucher system. And I've had a lot of problems with some of the tenants he's had. I've had to have multiple issues and get people evicted because there was all kinds of kooky stuff going on. And then he recently, prior to COVID, evicted the tenant that I had major problems with. So the house was vacant for a while. And then COVID hit, so it still was vacant. And COVID has since passed. There's a construction project behind my house that he has allowed the company that's doing that construction to clean his backyard out because he doesn't have a fence. And they put pebbles in it so that they could park off the alley, because I was bitching about the fact that they were blocking the alley and I couldn't get out of my own space. So recently now, I noticed within the last 6 months or so, there was a stop work order put on the back of his house because they were doing stuff inside the house. And the sticker's gone, but I'll go on the website and see whether it's been validated or whether he just removed it.
Mm.
But he's had people in up until about a week ago doing all kinds of jackhammering and all kinds of stuff. And my real issue is that, and I was going to send an email to somebody in housing, but maybe DOB is the right person. There's some serious problems with this house, and I really don't think he should be renting it at all. The last tenant he had in there had 4 dogs that were living in the house from the tenant that he rented it to. And because the house had been empty for so long, the sewer system wasn't working and it was backing up in the backyard. So I had to call to have that addressed. WASA came out and did something to unplug it. And then they cut off the gas because there was some issue with the gas. I mean, it's just crazy. And so the tenant finally, after I complained to the owner, because I know the owner and I have his phone number, he told me he was working on getting them evicted. They left and left the dogs in the house all by themselves with no supervision, no food, no water. I woke up one morning and they had climbed out the front window on the porches, and they were running back and forth on the porch because they're all connected. You know, you go out the window, you can step on the next door neighbors. Well, I finally got in contact with him, and he sent somebody out, closed the window. And then about 3 weeks later, the dogs got out in the back because they left the window in the back, and they're running up and down the alley. So I had to have animal control come and pick them up. They were so emaciated, it wasn't even funny. So I can just imagine what that house is like inside. So my question, I know it's been a winded story here, but is, do I go and report that online to have somebody, because he doesn't live in the house and I don't know how they can get in. He already built an illegal addition in the back, which is literally, I don't know how it even stays up, to be honest with you. But I don't think that house is safe for him to rent. And it looks like he just moved in a brand new refrigerator in this recent thing. And my neighbor next to him on the other side was telling me that they were banging so hard with the jackhammering. I have a house in between my house and the problem house, but the guy that lives next door said it was knocking stuff off his wall.
So yeah, I think this sounds like a tough case. I mean, the first thing I want to say is, DOB, we regulate the buildings, right? The sticks and bricks. We don't regulate the people. So just put that aside. This sounds like a couple of things you can report that for. I think you can report it for illegal construction, because if thhere doing work where there's a stop work order, that would be illegal construction. If they're doing work like outside of any posted permits, everyone has to have a permit posted visibly from the street. Now it could be on the window, so you can't really see it, but it has to be posted. Okay, so they don't have permits posted in the window. And I know it's hard, but if sometimes they just post pieces of paper and they're expired, so you can see when the permits are valid for. So legal construction. If there's no one living in the property, you can report it as a vacant property. It sounds like he's trying to rent it. So there's a few ways I think you can report this property to make sure that it's habitable, right? But I think those are probably the 2 ways to go. You can report it to our housing property maintenance as well. If the windows are broken, if the back deck or porch is all fallen down, our property maintenance inspectors will find it, and then they'll issue a violation as well. So I think there's you have 3 avenues, and you don't have to just pick one. You could submit complaints for all of those things. You can also, again, send me the address. I have my email and phone number in the chat. Send me the address, and I can follow up with you and walk you through if you want me to, how to submit these complaints.
Okay.
Yeah, but sorry you have to go live through that. It's hard. I've had issues too with neighbors. It's not pleasant when you have when you have tough neighbors and construction going on. I feel you.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Thanks, Alex. So I know it's 7:35, but we do have a few questions in the chat that I think are all related to each other. And also I know that Mr. Maloff, who asked 3 of the 4 questions, added his email to the Q&A, so I can make sure to send that to you, Alex, as well as some of the additional questions. if we don't get to answering them all. But the first question is, has the special forensic engineer, this is in regard to the building collapse, has the special forensic engineer been hired since February 25th? The report must include addressing the myriad multiple permit file and inspections official records deficiencies repeatedly identified by the public. If DOB does not have these, I can provide in detail. Otherwise, I believe the council is willing to follow up.
So the question is, has a special forensic engineer been hired by the Department of Buildings?
Yes.
I do not believe so, no.
Okay. Great. Let me just respond so that I have that documented. Okay, the next question is, will the property owner be billed, as with any ambulance role, for the money that was spent by MPD, FEMS, coroner over the sort of as a result of the incident, in addition to any subsequent engineers, lawyers, or special meetings that were incurred as a result?
That is an interesting question. I do not have the answer to that question. I do not know if DOB has the authority. I do not know if we have the authority. I can go back and find out if we have the authority to issue a special assessment for those city services. I know DOB can issue special assessments. Typically, it's for the fines and the costs incurred by DOB, but I do not know, so I can follow up.
Great. All right, cruising right along. Next question is also from Mr. Maloff. Have other affected construction employees on site that day been interviewed? The federal OSHA file is still open. Can you confirm if DOB will include OSHA status in your post-event report?
I do not know if they have been interviewed by DOB. I cannot speak to the OSHA investigation. Will we include the OSHA status in our report? I think we'd include any investigation that came out from OSHA in our post-action report if it's completed.
Great.
I also want to make clear that these are technical questions. I don't want to speak for the chief building official, but that's just what those are my thoughts.
Great. But in any case, I can forward these questions to you if you are able to follow up.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, and then our last question is, have any loss claims been filed with ORM or Superior Court against DC for this event and the permitting/inspection issues related to 1113 V Street?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Great. And I apologize for my typos in the answers that I'm typing on these Q&A questions. I'm trying to do it quick. Okay, I think unless there aren't any other questions, immediate questions from committee members, I would like to proceed to our subsequent presentation from the zoning administrator. So I'll give us a beat in case any commissioners have any questions, and otherwise, hearing none, would like to welcome Commissioner Zoning Administrator, Beaton, to our committee. Thanks so much for your patience.
Thank you for inviting me. It's nice to meet you and see you tonight. I don't have a formal presentation prepared. I did talk to Mr. Chauvin and Mr. Nelson about a month ago regarding a proposed eating and drinking establishment at 911 U Street. And they had some questions about how we review applications for consistency with the zoning regulations. In a particular, this area has some limitations on the amount of frontage that can be occupied by eating and drinking establishments. And so we had a conversation around, well, what does that mean in terms of the APCA application? What do they have to show to demonstrate compliance for you in terms of the zoning review? What happens first, what happens second? And then some specific questions related to the variance that was granted for what had been the Dirty Goose at 913 U Street. So just, I guess, maybe generally or broadly, I'll start with kind of what the process is, if that's useful and instructive to the committee. Basically what happens, and if you have questions, feel free to interrupt me, that's perfectly fine. Basically what typically happens is somebody who decides that they want to operate an eating and drinking establishment will seek a license from ABCA to be able to sell alcohol, right? And so as part of that process, they sometimes seek a zoning certification form from us, which is a very basic form. It's just a one-page sheet that identifies what the property is zoned, whether an eating and drinking establishment is allowed, and the date. So it's pretty straightforward. There's also, I think, some language at the bottom of the form that talks about this doesn't absolve you of getting a building permit or a certificate of occupancy. I'm sort of paraphrasing here. It says there are other approvals that you may have to get in order to operate, but this is just a kind of a blanket, can you do this type of use in this location? So my understanding is that such a certification was obtained by the proposed operators of 911 U Street. I also understand the process of going to ABCA and getting a liquor license to operate in that location. When I spoke with Mr. Chauvin and Mr. Nelson last month, we talked about where they could do this as a matter of right use. And so I said a few minutes ago that there's a limitation on the ground square footage on the ground floor for eating and drinking establishments. In this particular square, there's no additional square footage left at the ground floor. So if somebody were going to come into 911 U Street and operate on the ground floor, they would need to seek BZA relief to do it. They could, however, operate on a floor that's not the ground floor. So they could operate on the second floor, they could operate in the basement. There's a roof deck, I believe, there. They could operate on the roof deck. All of those are locations that are not subject to this limitation that I described a few minutes ago. So they could, with appropriate permits, which in this case would require a building permit because we haven't issued a C of O for this building previously as an eating and drinking establishment, and a C of O for the occupant load, to establish the occupant load. With those permits in place, they could operate on a floor other than the ground floor if they wanted to do that without going through the process of seeking relief from the Board of Zoning Adjustment. And then that typically, when would we typically become aware of that? Would somebody pursue an ABCA license if they didn't have BZ approval? These are also some of the questions that we talked about. We see applicants seek multiple forms of relief at one time. It's possible that they're intending to seek relief from the Board of Zoning Adjustment. I haven't had any conversations with anybody there about this. They don't have to come to me and have a conversation. They can also hire an attorney or architect who's licensed in DC to make their application to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. So it's possible that they could be pursuing that route. I don't know whether they are or they aren't, but in order to operate on the ground floor, as I said a few minutes ago, they would need to have BZ relief to be able to obtain a CVO for that particular use on that floor. Now, maybe I'll just stop, pause for a minute, because I know it's a lot of information. See if anybody has any questions about that, and I can talk specifically about the variance that was granted to 913 U Street and some of the questions that Mr. Chauvin and Mr. Nelson had last month.
Kathleen, can I just ask a quick question to follow up on what you just said? I just lost my thought about what I wanted to ask you, darn it. Well, if it comes back to me, I'll
Okay. And you can always email me too later if you think of it after, much later. I'll be around. The variance. But did you think of it?
It just came to me. Oh, I had a senior moment. It just came to me.
Okay. Great. What is it?
If, and I'm using if in quotes, if this applicant, which is probably the owner, not necessarily the applicant for the license, because it's two different things. If the applicant was to file with BZA for the variance, which they're already over on that square, is it not true that not necessarily you, but the zoning administrator weighs in at the BZA case with its recommendation?
That's a very good question. Thank you for asking it. No, actually, we don't weigh in at the BZA. The Office of Planning will prepare a staff report to the Board of Zoning Adjustment and explain the relief that's required, and they'll provide a recommendation of either approval or denial it would be a variance request, so for the variance request. But our office doesn't get involved with making recommendations to the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
Okay, so then my follow-up to that would be, if the applicant puts in a BZA request for the variance, and then it comes to the ANC, and the ANC votes to, I'm just using theory here, not support it, is there an additional step that the ANC can do to get its not only its recommendation to the BZA, but its comments to the person that's going to report to the BZA from zoning?
From the Office of Planning. So I mean, make your
Office of
comments.
Planning, sorry.
Yeah, make your, yeah. So, yes, I mean, so we very often see reports, from ANCs, whether they support a case or they do not support a case. Sometimes they support with conditions. So that information I've seen in other BZA cases, I've seen ANC reports that go directly to the Board of Zoning Adjustment, to Chairman Hill and the rest of the members, that they can consider it. I don't see why you couldn't also copy. There are two people in the Office of Planning, Jennifer Steingasser, who's the Deputy Director for Development Review, and Joel Lawson, who's the Associate Director for Development Review. Both of those people could be copied on the report that the ANC would send to the BZA so that they have knowledge about the ANC's position on this particular case. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. That's good to know.
Great, thanks, Patrick.
Sure.
I did actually have one question that came to mind before you go on, and if what you were about to say answers this question, we can just continue. But I guess what I'm wondering is, it sounds like in this instance, as an example, there are lots of different ways in which the applicant could end up being able to operate in this location, but that they are all sort of like that the applicant would be getting approvals or permissions from various different parts of either Department of Buildings or Office of Planning or whoever. Like if the zoning variance is not approved, does that end the conversation here about whether or not this establishment can operate on the ground floor specifically? Which seems to be the main question, and then I think there's the additional question of like, can they operate on the other floors as well?
Yeah, so they could appeal the board's determination. They could file their own appeal, appealing the denial. This would be the applicant I'm talking about, who could file an appeal if they wanted to. And that would be heard by the Court of Appeals. And there, I don't know any of them. I don't know their timeline. It could take months, it could take years for an appeal case to be heard. So they do have an avenue, I guess, of to redress, or maybe just have, not redress is kind of the wrong word, but they do have an appeals avenue that they could pursue if they were interested in doing that. Yes, and we're talking about the ground floor only. If they wanted to operate on the second floor or the third floor or the roof deck, or as I said before, the basement, those areas haven't been occupied as an eating and drinking establishment before. I mean, the roof deck has been, so let me take that off the table, but the second floor, for example, hasn't been. So to use that area, they would need a building permit as well as a certificate of occupancy, because the building code regulates fire, life safety, egress. They would have to comply with those requirements as well as the zoning regulations in order to operate there. So we haven't been able to assess that space in particular for its security and occupant load and that sort of thing. So they would need to have that building permit issued and past final inspection before they could apply for a CBA to occupy that space, just like anybody else in the city. It's not just unique to this particular address, but this applies citywide.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
I see, Frank, you have your hand up.
Hi, Ms. Beaton. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you in this important conversation. I think I'd like to ask a question regarding your chart, your inventory chart. Inventory for eating and drinking is perhaps the formal name that you supplied, and I think every committee member received it, but it's with respect to this block. And it's the block of, let's see, it's the 900 block of U Street, and specifically the north side, square 0360. And we appear to be, the total used linear first floor footage is 167.52 feet. And the percent occupied is 72.71%. So that's almost 25% over the cap of 50%. So my question to you is, and in parentheses, it says the available footage, 52 52.3 or minus 52.3 in parentheses, so meaning we're over by 52.32 feet. How did we get here? What can we do? I mean, I've joined this committee 6 years ago to get to this problem, understand what's going on, understand why it's going on, understanding how difficult it is to manage by anybody, understanding we don't have anybody managing it, and asserting here that I think the ANC has some due diligence requirements here because nobody else does it, and we've let those go. We've absolutely let those go because we have 52 feet over the 50% maximum in this block. And this block sits around 500 row homes, adjacency, that is making life very difficult. And this is one of the pieces of the puzzle that we need to get a handle on, and we needed to do better. 34 years ago, when the 1989 arts overlay was instituted, we need to do better. 1 year later, we set a 25% cap. Nobody managed that in the whole city. So 16 years later, we increased the cap because nobody was managing the 25% cap. So 34 years later, we're still in the brilliance of a mess for my residential community. And that's why you've heard so much from me over the last couple of years. So I'm going at some point have a motion for this committee to manage this process better than we have, put together a process that's 34 years outstanding. But my question to you is, how do we get over 52 feet over the 50% cap on this block? I mean, how could you have helped? How could your office? No, it was preceding you, so it was the zoning administrator preceding you, and maybe the one preceding him. But how can we prevent this from happening? And is there any, from your perspective, I know it's not your arena because it's zoning, but is there any make whole issue because we've been aggrieved so deeply, and I mean deeply, because our neighborhood is affected deeply because of this issue. And it's, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Frank. So yeah, I have a hard time explaining how we got here. I can't, right? I can't really explain how we got to 52% over, but we are over, and we're willing, like I told you when I met with you, Mr. Nelson, willing to share our data. If we are wrong, we'll certainly admit that we've been wrong. If we're right, we'll share, we'll celebrate when we're right. But I hear your point about like oversaturation and what that does to the residential neighborhood around it. You and I have had conversations about, are there other standards that need to be considered? Are there other things that the zoning commission can consider? In this particular case, if the operator elected to go to the BZA and seek a variance relief, I think you have very good grounds for saying, look, we're done. Like this block was done a long time ago. It may only be like 10 feet of frontage to you, but this is the impact it has. We're talking about incrementally over time, like you add it all up and you get to this place. So, as I said to you, Mr. Nelson, we welcome partnering with you. I'm happy to talk to the ANC more about what other tools might be available or how can we work better collaboratively, more proactively. Yeah, we're open to that. I don't have an answer for you right now, but just my commitment to working with you and the ANC on it.
Kathleen, I think there's some I'm trying to think of the right word. Some additional research that Mr. Goldberg needs to do on that chart, because I don't know. I mean, I have the original chart that Frank and I started this conversation on.
Okay.
And the Dirty Goose site, which is 913, was the one that went over the 50% cap. But I don't know how it went from that number to 50% more. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. So
52 feet, Patrick. It's not percent. It's 52 feet over.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be 52 feet is what I'm saying. I don't know how he's calculating that number, because they only asked for an additional, right off the top of my head, I can't remember. I think they asked for an additional 10 feet.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to schedule a meeting, an offline meeting with you and Mr. Goldstein and Mr. Chauvin and anybody else actually from the ANC or the committee who's interested in participating in it to go over the numbers and talk about how we arrived at that number.
Yeah, I think that's a fruitful investigation, Frank, that we should look at, because that's going to give us more information and more data if and when they decide they want to apply for this variance if they do it. And Kathleen, the last thing that I'll say on this topic is Frank and I have had multiple conversations since you and I and he talked about some of these arts overlay issues. And we've also had meetings with Frank. You'll have to tell me who the guy's name is that we met with that deals with the zoning code.
Yeah, Ms. Steingasser and Mr. and Joel at the
Joel Lawson,
Office of Planning.
right? Office of Planning. The real crux that I think we need to address here, Kathleen, is that when the arts overlay was written, it only pertained to the first floor, and realistic viewpoint, nobody just rents just the first floor, and that's where we get into this problem, and really it should be the building itself, not necessarily a floor, how they calculate that. And the real issue is, and Frank and I have talked about this offline in detail, is you have a basement in that building, the one we're talking about, 911, that they could use because it's a basement and it doesn't fall into the first floor. And then you get the second floor and then the roof deck, which was applied later. But how are they getting, if they were to be using the basement and the second floor, how are they getting from the basement to the second floor without going through the first floor? So really there's a hole in that theory too. So this is something that really needs to be a little bit more thought process on whether or not that's, and like I said, Joel and I and Frank had multiple discussions on that to see if there's some way that we can modify that. But I think that's something that has to be looked at. The arts overlay, especially as it relates to the U Street corridor, is very different than any of the other arts overlays around the city, which are wanting to do different things and want more. They don't have the same kind of issues that we have here, where there's just this over concentration of bars and restaurants. They're looking for that, so they want to do things differently. But I think this is an issue that needs to be really thought about and looked at. What are the consequences and what, if anything, can be done to tweak it?
Well, I appreciate those comments, Mr. Nelson. And I think you're right. When you're talking about the ground floor, it's just a ground floor. You're not looking at the rest of the floors in the building, and it kind of creates a loophole for somebody who's trying to find a way around a well-intended regulation. I'm glad to hear that you've had conversations with Jennifer and Joel. I would maybe just put in a pitch here for the comp planning process. The comprehensive planning process is just kicking off with the Office of Planning. This is one issue certainly that would be really great to talk about in that context, but there's also other land use issues or concerns that you as an ANC might want to talk about with them in terms of density and heights and uses. So I would kind of encourage that. Certainly the conversations you're having with them now, but also maybe participating, well, not maybe, strongly encouraging you to participate in that process, just to kind of help guide it, shape it. You may have some ideas about maybe possible zoning changes that could come out of the comprehensive planning process. So it's always important to stay involved and engaged in that effort as well as, as well as the other conversations you're having with Joel and Jennifer. But thank you. I appreciate your thoughts on that.
Thank you. I realized that we sort of started with questions and maybe there was more that you wanted to share. So if there's anything else that you wanted to add, yeah.
Just a couple of quick questions that both Mr. Nelson and Mr. Chauvin had about the variance for Dirty Goose that I couldn't answer because I told them I'm not an attorney, but I did contact our attorneys with these specific questions, and they confirmed that yes, the variance runs with the land. So it can be used by the new occupants of 913U. So it wasn't just issued to the Dirty Goose. It can be occupied by, I think the new operator is MLK Lounge or MK Lounge, something like that. So they can take advantage of the variance that was granted previously. There's also a question about, does the variance expire? And from their research, there is no provision that requires or requires that, that requires a variance to expire, or there's no, through either disuse or discontinuity discontinuity. It's a hard word to say, through maybe non-use or vacancy. Let's just say it that. So there's nothing, no case law that would say a variance would expire due to non-use or non-continuous activity. And then the variance that was granted is specific to the dirty use of that frontage. So that frontage is captured within the inventory, notwithstanding what I heard you say just a few minutes ago, Mr. Nelson, about the numbers. I'm wanting to kind of drill down a little bit deeper into those. But the variance is specifically for that allocation for that particular frontage. So those were the 3 questions I kind of took away from our conversation last month. If there's other questions that those answers generate, I'm happy to take them back. I may or may not be able to answer them now, but I'm happy to take them back if there are.
I see, Frank, you have your hand up. I'm assuming it's
Yeah, real quick, Ms. Beaton, I put it in the chat. Could this committee or an individual in the community ask for an opinion on the stairwell use? Within a stairwell, as Mr. Nelson was explaining, they can't get at 911 U Street, they cannot get to the basement except by going inside the first floor, a prohibited floor for alcohol restaurant eating use. They can't get to the second floor or the roof deck without going through the first floor and having a stairwell, using the stairwell, which is on the first floor. Has the zoning administrator looked at this? Could you, maybe it's a simple yes or no, not to make it complicated, look at this issue that it might be, in fact, our loophole against their loophole, to disallow use in this building for eating and drinking?
All right, I'm happy to look at it. I haven't considered it before, but I will.
Thank you.
Sure.
Would you need opinion or a request or like an official?
Just if you email, I mean, I don't know if I'll have access to this chat after the meeting. I'm kind of taking notes quickly, but yeah, if you want to formally email it to me, that would be great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's it. I don't have any other remarks planned. Sorry. That concludes my presentation.
And thank you, Ms. Beaton.
Pleasure.
If I'll pause a beat. We are right at 8 o'clock. I'll pause a beat to see if any other committee members or attendees have questions for our zoning administrator. And if not, I think we can move on to our last part of the agenda. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I'll make sure to share later this week, share the questions from the chat. And we didn't get any Q&As questions with regard to what you were presenting on, but I'll make sure to share that with you so that you have
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now I would like to invite Teresa Edmondson to share an update with us about the Howard University Hospital. And I know there are some of your colleagues in the great. I think you are on oh, there you perfect.
Here I am. Hi guys. Hi. Can you promote Derek?
Yes, I just
Williams
promoted
and
him.
Cynthia Giordano. Oh,
Great.
there he is right there. Okay, great.
And Cynthia. Who needs to present?
Derek will be
Great.
presenting.
So I will make Derek a co-host.
Correct.
Fabulous.
There he is. Hi everybody. I'm Teresa Edmondson, Community Association Manager for the Howard University External Affairs. I know quite a few of you. To the new commissioners, hello. Good to see you. And you'll be probably seeing a lot of me this year. With that, I'm going to turn it right over to our AVP of Real Estate Investment and Capital Assets Management, Mr. Derek Meeks Williams.
Well, thank you, Teresa.
Sure.
Again, thanks for all of your time. I saw there was quite a auspicious agenda item before ours, so glad that you guys had the opportunity to get the time there. That's really amazing, actually. So today we're here to discuss upcoming case 11-15F for Frank. No pun intended, Frank. Which is the extraction of the parcels that are south of W Street that are currently part of the university's master plan, specifically square 3074, parcel number 0011, and square number 3075, parcel number 0807. So Just a moment, I'll pull up my PowerPoint presentation, but do want to point out that we have presented to Teresa, it's the Economic Development Committee prior. In addition, this presentation has been given to the Detroit Park Civic Association. I'll add, I'm just coming off of being sick, so excuse me if I'm a little stumbly. So today, we're here to discuss the extraction, but also wanted to give you all the benefit of some of the details that we had worked through with Detroit Park specifically, as well as just a progress update on some of the surrounding conditions that will be impacted and affected by the hospital development plan and its project. So at high level, you can see the bird's eye view here of the existing site with our hospital here in the center, the generous amount of land in the front that will receive our new hospital pavilion building, as well as the existing College of Medicine and Dentistry that are along the north side of the existing hospital. So as we jump down to the future vision here, you see a new pavilion building that's constructed on the Georgia Avenue corridor that bridges between, on the lower levels, the existing hospital and this new pavilion. There are also a number of sort of gray massings that are shown illustratively as development options and opportunities for commercial development. This is something that was called for by the tax abatement that we put forth and is one of the key funding sources for the hospital. One of the many funding sources for the hospital is the capital that's driven by these redevelopment projects that will surround the land around the hospital. So again, the extraction specifically seeks to remove these parcels from the boundary of the campus master plan and allow their development as a matter of right, which also kind of is supported by the recent rezoning of this land, which I want to thank all the members of this community for your support on that, which was, I think the final set down was on the 13th of last month that officially changed the zoning. So ultimately, also just wanted to highlight that what we will be backfilling into the existing portions of the existing hospital, as well as the existing medical towers building in the rear and our existing oncology center, we'll actually be moving the College of Medicine, our graduate medical education programs, our stimulation center, and a number of other programs into the hospital proper, such that the amalgamation of a new constructed pavilion and a renovated hospital facility and towers building oncology center ultimately be an integrated academic medical complex, which we're really excited about going forward. So this is just an aerial view to highlight the existing zoning, as well as some of the development parcels that surround it. So you can see that in plan view. 4 to the north that are kind of designated on the Georgia Avenue side with site 4A and 4B, and then on the 5th Street side, kind of facing side, the easterly side on 5A and 5B. There's also a smaller parcel at the intersection of Georgia Avenue and Florida that we've dubbed Site 6 with two options for development there, 6A and 6B. So again, moving down to sort of the details of what drove a lot of the dialogue with Detroit Park, as well as a lot of interest from other neighbors and parties, in addition to our city partners on this, was the circulation surrounding the existing hospital. So you all should, or sorry, the future proposed hospital, which will change the pattern of utilization from the existing hospital situation. So just to kind of highlight this at a very high level, the main entrance to the hospital, which will receive the most volume of trips, vehicular trips, estimated about 300 trips per day, will be on the north side of the building, buffered by the existing assemblage and the new construction from the bedroom community of Detroit Park. However, on the south side of the existing hospital, due to the layout of the existing the new emergency department that will be renovated into the existing hospital, we'll be moving the ED down to the southern side to separate those two uses so that you don't create a lot of traffic conflicts. Specifically as well, based on the dialogue with Detroit Park, wanted to make sure that the ambulance traffic was appropriately buffered from the community. And so basically, you know, in layman's terms, we'll have a bunker in which the ambulance will enter and exit directly on and off of Georgia Avenue, with soundproofing so that, you know, the issue of potential siren noise, flashing lights, even the idling of engines or exhaust will all be mitigated from the residential community that's on the south side of U Street. In addition, the emergency department itself for individuals driving to drop off or walk up to the emergency department will be located where it's indicated here, which is in a small roundabout area, such that it'll be directly next to the ambulance bay. So jumping down, also wanted to highlight the importance of the site as it moves into construction. And so the dashed green line that you see here will roughly approximate the limit of disturbance of the construction activity. And so that effectively blocks off the main entrance to the existing hospital as it stands from the west. And so two things will need to occur in order to accommodate that. First, ambulance and emergency traffic will need to route across W Street, and I'll show a different diagram in just a moment to highlight that. But the existing emergency department is actually located at the northwest corner of the building. And so the existing public alleyway will provide the access that will be necessary during the emergent period. Additionally, the temporary entrance to the hospital proper will be along the 5th Street corridor as shown here, which is an existing entrance to the Towers building that does connect into the main hospital. So that's going to be a necessary piece just in order to build this new facility in this location. And so as I alluded to a second ago, that would require us to move and change the directionality of W Street, which is currently one way westbound from 5th Street, actually from 5th Street all the way to Georgia Avenue. And so that would need to be converted into two-way movement, which is something that was contemplated within the 2020 campus master plan. At which point we were planning on placing the hospital building where I'm hovering my mouse over here. And so we were going to do that to Bryant as well as W Street in order to facilitate better traffic. So that's something that we received support from LaDroit Park and all the other parties that we've discussed this with such far as one of the necessary things to facilitate traffic coming from Georgia to the hospital, as opposed to it cutting through LaDroit Park in various ways to get to that location. Also highlighted the parking situation. And so I think the headline here, there's an existing condition, and I'll highlight what the future condition will look like. But during construction, this 124 space visitor lot will be affected by the limited disturbance I illustrated before, as well as about 10 spaces out of this 106 space. So at about 135, 140 spaces will be affected overall. And so the plan, in order to accommodate that during the construction period, is actually to take the first two levels of garage A1 and A2, which are just across the street from the proposed temporary construction entrance to the hospital, and then reassign the existing users of those two floors to sites that are to the north on the university's campus. So effectively, we'll have enough space to accommodate the visitor parking by shifting some of the faculty practice and other folks that park in these lots a little bit further north on surface lots that we have right now. Then jumping into the proposed final condition, we definitely are going to retain the two existing garages along 5th Street. And then we are investigating the possibility of building some limited parking, about 45, maybe 50 spaces underneath the existing pavilion, just to facilitate emergency parking for the most part, for the emergency patients that are dropping off in their personal vehicles. And then to the north, these commercial development sites, we actually plan on negotiating into the development agreement such that we have rights for parking in each of the development parcels, such that in the future, we're able to make sure that there isn't any sort of a parking crunch or something that would affect the viability of the hospital. So we always want to make sure that we maintain the 1614 figure that's shown at the bottom. If not, try to benefit and gain a little bit of incremental space on top of that. So also just want to point out that as it stands here, the city would, and DDOT would prefer the curb cuts and whatnot to be off of the public right of way like W Street. And so, that will be compatible with the concept of utilizing some space in some of these garages to serve some of the potential future surge needs of the hospital. So jumping down, this diagram is really just to illustrate two cross sections that are cut through and to kind of show you some of the existing, the proposed circulation within the future site. So the first section you're going to see is closer to the Georgia Avenue side, and it cuts through the new construction facility. The second cross section that you're going to see is actually through the existing hospital and really is meant to illustrate what the emergency drop-off looks like. So these were of particular interest to LaDroit Park, the dimensions and all of the details surrounding this, because it comes very close to the U Street Alley and it comes very close to residential townhomes. So again, you can see a sidewalk that is about 18 feet wide that'll be along the south side of the existing building and will also come across the new building out to Georgia Avenue. There'll be 2 lanes of travel. And then you can also see just the proximity here to these existing townhomes. And what's diagrammed here is sort of the highest extent that you can get within the zone designation across the street, across the alley rather. So zooming in, this is the cross section that cuts through the new emergency department and the existing hospital and illustrates how emergency patients would come and drop off, folks that need immediate attention and medical care. And so one of the key factors here that I didn't highlight on one of the earlier slides, but there's plenty of time to talk about it, is the fact that we have committed to building a acoustic wall, a visual wall, a barrier of various ways along this U Street alleyway for the full extent of the adjacency to the hospital, just to make sure that there aren't any issues of sound or light that have an effect on these townhomes in the rear. So a lot of conversation went into landscaping and shadow space and whatnot in terms of how we could accomplish a nice environment, as well as accomplish the functional requirements. And a lot of conversation went in about height. So we talked a lot about means and methods of construction and investigated things as far as like a sound barrier wall that you would see on the side of a highway or an expressway, all the way down to a simple 8-foot, concrete block wall. So again, talked about a lot of those different options with LaDroit Park and have actually added that language, or at least we are in the process of, if it's not already done, to the memorandum of agreement that we have with LaDroit. The last point I'm going to drive at is just that there are some enabling swing space projects to facilitate this renovation process, as well as the new construction. So there are certain functions of the hospital need to pull out temporarily in order to renovate their space and then move them back in. So we have secured this site, the old historic Wonder Bread site that is right at the Georgia Avenue and S Street intersection, just about. And so there are about 50,000 square feet of space that we have leased in this building to absorb some of our clinical uses, as well as some of the backup house, like medical billing, IT support, et cetera, that are easy to move out of the existing hospital. So this will be a patient-facing location, and we are really excited to bring it out of the hospital so that we can get in there and start making good use of what we've been able to gain in terms of the functional use of the hospital. The last thing that I'll highlight is just that we've looked with LaDroit Park, and part of our memorandum of agreement includes taking a look at developing a residential townhome buffer along the eastern side of the site, along the 5th Street corridor, such that the existing condition here is visually buffered and buffered by as a matter of use from LaDroit Park. And so that's something that we continue to investigate. This is like a rendering that we've had put together. We also committed to having developers look at this and pull together the sort of pro forma and the financial viability of this. So that's something that we're also working on. So just wanted to highlight all those things. I know it took a little bit more of your time probably than everybody has on a Monday night, but I will open the floor for any questions. That concludes the presentation. And I guess I'll orient us on this bounding image, if that's okay.
Thanks very much, Tarek. All right, I see, Jason, you have your hand raised, so why don't you get us started?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Derek and Teresa and the Howard team, for always being great partners in the planning stages of this. I have a couple of questions and comments. One, I do want to validate what Derek said about the engagement with LaDroit Park. It's been very good, and we have a lot of what Derek talked about put into writing in an agreement that rides with the land. So there's real teeth to the discussions that we've been having, which is great. Maybe and I don't have a lot of comments on the plan itself because as mentioned, LaTroy Park has weighed in extensively on it. Maybe the only one I'll call out, and it's not, I won't oppose the plan for it, but it does seem like a little bit of a circumvention of the commercial non-Howard, non-hospital uses of the sites in 4 and 5 to then use that land for Howard parking done through like a subleasing agreement. I think it's really important to the community that there be additional non-Howard development as part of this project. That was the commitment to the city for all of the resources that the city is putting into this. And so I'm not super enthusiastic about circumventing that for Howard's parking purposes. And so I just maybe want to get a strong commitment from the Howard team that none of that will be surface parking. And just express my general discontent of that more broadly. And then I'd like, we need to finish the conversation on the hospital, but when we're done with that, if the Howard team could please comment on the other properties in LaDroit Park. I'm thinking specifically Walter Washington, which is a iconic and important property to the city, which Howard removed windows and doors from and has let fall into incredible disrepair. It is in far worse shape than it was when Howard acquired it, and it is in far worse shape than it was 5 years ago when they started construction on it, or 3 years ago when they started construction on it. We were told that construction stabilization work would be starting in October, and that we wouldn't notice the difference. And in fact, I haven't noticed the difference because there's been no work. I haven't seen any workers. So we'd like a commitment. And frankly, it's very hard for me to go back to the community and say that we're excited about partnering with Howard when something as simple as a historic row house of one of the most important people in Washington's history can't be preserved. So how do we expect kind of delivery against the commitments for a gigantic hospital project? I'd also like to ask about the Sandlot project that's been empty. So when that site, the CVS site, will start to be activated again, I don't think, just because you got someone in there with a lease, you can wash your hands of it. It's fenced, no one's using it, the weather's good. So when is that being activated? And then finally is just Derek, if you could share a little bit more details. I guess this is going back to the hospital on the timing. My understanding was a significant portion of the financing was tied to having the work done in 2026, or sorry, 2025 even. If you can clarify on the timing and how that's working with the financing, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, so compound questions. I'll start with parking. So noted, and just to make sure that I was clear, we are putting it in the agreements, and that's aspirational to make sure that we can secure parking in the event that there's future need. The situation right now is that we want to maintain the 1614 that serves the existing establishment. So just wanted to make sure I made that clarifying point, but totally understand. And also, we don't expect that to be surface parking serving the hospital. We expect it to be developed for commercial uses. And then pivoting, you asked about the other properties in LaDroit Park. So again, I'm standing here trying to get the Walter Washington House project moved forward. And again, the thing that's been holding us back is coming to a contractual agreement and getting it all executed with the builder. So I don't really have much more of an update to provide you than that. The question about—
But there are a lot of builders in the city, and it's been this way for 4 years, like continuously falling into worse and worse disrepair. I mean, we're letting a piece of our history crumble.
I completely understand and agree. And that's something that, you know, the university intends to move forward on. We've got a lot of contracts to process, and that's one that I simply has not moved forward through the legal process. That's something that, again, I'll reassert that and make sure that our leadership understands how significant that is to you all. And you made an excellent point in saying that, you know, this is a relatively small project compared to some of these major undertakings at the universities.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, I just feel free to tell the university, like, I mean, at some point, the community is going to stop supporting the hospital because we don't believe that you can execute.
Understood. And then,
Derek, would you mind stop sharing your screen?
Oh, yeah,
for the
I'm sorry.
just so we can all see each other, and then if
Yeah, no problem.
you can share it again.
Sorry
Thanks.
about that. Yeah, and so then details of timing, we plan to deliver in 2028. And we plan to commence in 2025, later this calendar year. Just in terms of start and finish overall.
And then I think, Jason, you also asked about the Sandlot.
He did. Oh, he did.
Sure,
Yeah.
I can jump in here, Derek. I can jump in. Because I've been working with Ian and on the Sandlot project. So the first now I was trying to keep it, you know, as a surprise, but actually I am going to be inviting the ANC 1B and 1E commissions to a private. You all get the first look, and it will be next week. And that's just for ANC. That's actually for ANC 1E and 1B, and also members of my CAC and community leaders. And that'll be the 29th. I think that's a Tuesday. And then the first weekend of May, there'll be some private, it'll start being utilized, the site itself. So.
Great, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yes, I know, it's been a long time coming, but it's happening in a couple of weeks. And you guys, like I said, will get to see it next week.
Awesome. Jason, did you have anything? Or Derek, was there anything else you wanted to...
I said my piece.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. Frank, your hand is up next.
Yes, good evening, Teresa and Derek. Thank you for your presentation. Good to see you. I am wondering about two things, and I'm sorry, you've just taken it off, Derek, but could you go back to the diagram that shows what I think is the smoke, the restaurant at the corner of 7th and Florida? The current restaurant locked. There was
This
one
right
of
here?
one of your pictorials had this in dash lines, and I didn't understand the significance. I forget which piece it was, but is there a pending reuse and or significance of the dotted line? And it wasn't this slide because there's no dotted line. Yeah. Was that it? Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that was just bounding the site, identifying it as site 6, site 4, site 5. There are 2 potential parcels in each of the sites. So the colored dash lines just indicate what the site is.
Okay, so but there's nothing planned for 6A or 6B.
For
right?
6A, if you look at the rendering here, there's a development plan there. The existing building here that fronts on at the corner,
yes,
that's a facility that is currently occupied. We're, you know, in a interesting legal position with the tenant, and at present, I'm not sure that that's something that we necessarily think we want to incorporate into this development. But again, that's really kind of up to a developer, if that answer makes sense. So I think there were some concerns about height and density, et cetera, along the U Street block right here. Yeah. And so we wanted to make sure not to build, you know, like a 90-foot tower type thing right at the corner and block that. So this was trying to be somewhat sensitive to some of the concerns about massing and height that were put forth in the MOA that we have with Literature Park.
All right, I think in my second one, real quick, I asked you folks this last time, but is there any analysis on the emergency vehicle routes path use at this time? Is that do you know if there's an analysis ever done on emergency vehicles? I know there's going to be a study about how they will utilize and what needs to be done for infrastructure improvements, perhaps at the time you develop. Am I correct? But I want to know, is there anything else that is existing and or undertaken periodically or in the last 5 years on how these roads are used by emergency vehicles at this time? Because
That's an excellent question. So, I mean, as it pertains to our project, our transportation planners have some calculations, and they've come out to the site and performed, observations at different times of the year. And they actually have longitudinal information going back several master plans. So maybe about 20 years of data, incrementally. And so that I think is one of the potential sources. But I think that what I can do is ask the chief operating officer of the hospital specifically if that's something that they track and if they have any metrics or information, and I can get back to you because that's not my direct area. But I can make that request from the hospital administration, right? And get back to you about it if that's okay.
Thank you. No rush. I appreciate it. And then to clarify, the pending study for improvements and assuagement, less stress on the overall community. That study would be undertaken at what point during your development?
The impact of
the emergency vehicles and or its change from current routes on the community, on the
I'm not
adjacent
sure that
community.
that's necessarily a requirement for the project, but that's something that our team needs to be very sensitive to. And so again, like from an entitlements perspective, that's not something that I don't think any particular agency or anyone requires for permit. There's like a traffic study and whatnot we need to do. But in addition, there are provisions in the certificate of need process that we've been going through that relate to that I can look up. And again, that's not my individual swim lane. I'm more the buildings guy, planning guy, but I can ask the COO about that as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you both.
Awesome. Thank you, Frank, and thank you, Derek. I think Patrick, you are next in line.
Derek, can you say once again what the case number is? 11-15F, is that what you said?
Yep, that's the next case number in line. We just got through 1115E. I think that's scheduled in
So that's
July.
that's a ride on to the campus plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, so this is next in line.
Okay, so then my next question is, can you go back to the screen where you have everything numbered?
Yes.
The extraction is 4, 5, and 7, correct?
Correct, because 6 is not currently in. Well, sorry, just to be clear, 6B is not in the boundary of the campus plan. 6A, however, is part of parcel 37, square 3075, parcel 807. Okay, so the only thing, half smoke technically is not within the campus boundary, but 6A right now is a surface parking lot that is within the campus boundary.
So that is not part of the extraction.
6B, as it's shown in this diagram, so let me zoom in,
6A
is not part of the extraction, but 6A is part of the extraction.
Okay, so it's 6, 7, and then 4 and 5.
Correct.
And not 2 and 3, or whatever that number is up top.
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted to verify that 2 and 3 are staying in the campus plan. So then my last question is a tricky question that I don't even know if I really want to ask, but this letter of agreement or letter of whatever the heck you're calling it that you guys did between university and the Leadray Park, where is that? Well, first of all, is that finished, done, signed, and sealed, or is that still being worked on?
Teresa, did we get the final executed copy with the amended language that talked about the wall? Does that come through yet?
No, we have the
I'm not
draft.
sure that it's,
We were
yeah, so I'm
looking,
not sure that that's,
We
yeah.
we have an original agreement that was signed.
right,
Correct. Yeah, we have an original agreement.
And so there's an agreement
I was
in
asking
place.
about the,
Right. But there
right,
is an agreement in place that covers
go ahead, Jason.
80% of this stuff. Yeah.
exactly. The wall is we just amended the agreement and gonna add some language about the wall, which has already been drawn up. And Matt is we're waiting for Matt to get back. Commissioner Fay, to get back in touch with us.
Then my next question is, based on what Jason said, that this is going to ride with the land. So where is this document going to be put? How is it going to be administered through the system so that it is a permanent, non-revocable, Howard can't make a change to later, like a deed? Is my understanding is what was supposed to be done. So is that going to be filed with the district government so that it's filed as a deed?
My understanding is it will be tied to the land. So the specific legal jargon surrounding that, I'm at a loss right now, Patrick. Sorry. But it will ride with the land. It's something that is intended to survive. And again, you know, just to go back to part of the thought process behind this, this is something that ultimately will govern what happens here 100, 150 years from now even. And so we wanted to make sure, and if you actually look at it, I mean, it contemplates what would happen 100 years from now or 200 years when the Howard Hospital isn't there anymore, right? And that site could be redeveloped for something else. So, you know, again, that was the idea, is that it is a permanent, you know, thing that, again, it can be amended, but it can only be amended with everyone's agreement.
Okay, so I'm not sure that I'm not going to belabor this point, but I'm not sure that I'm getting a proper answer to where it's gone. This is an agreement that you, the university, not you, Derek, but you, the university, made with a civic association. Has nothing to do, it's a specific party that you have made this agreement with. This is not through the ANC. It's not through the district government. It's through a civic association that you made an agreement for whatever terms were in that. It's not been made public. And I have some serious concerns about how that is going to be documented so that, like you said, in 20 years from now, when some of us are not around doing this anymore, there is some way to prove that you agreed back in 2025 that this is going to happen.
Patrick, I sorry to interrupt, but we have a version of the I understand that Teresa and Derek, you were just mentioning that there are some amendments that you've been working on to the MOA. So I don't know if what we have linked on the ZPD's website is the most up-to-date version of it. But when you presented last year in either December or November, I can't remember which month it was, you sent us a copy of or a version of the MOA that was active then, and we put it onto the ZPD's website, and I just added it to the chat. So if you want to read that MOA, the link is there. And I think this might answer your question, Patrick, but my recollection from that presentation, and maybe this is wrong, so please, oh, there's a password required. I'll when I'm done saying this, I'll make sure to share it without the password. Sorry. I'm pretty sure that the enforcement model for this would be through the deeds to the buildings, correct? Or to the properties that are governed through the MOA. And so that is how it would, my understanding is that is how it would live longer than like ownership of Howard. Like if Howard sells the properties or something like that.
Then it has to be recorded.
Right.
Yes,
It hasn't.
Patrick, that's my understanding as well. And that was my understanding, was that was part of the responsibilities of Howard, and that was, I think, actually laid out in the agreement. And I think that was a follow-up for Lila and the Howard legal team. I don't know the status of it, and it's a good push to check the status of that.
Yeah, well, Jason, as an aside, since you're part of that association that's been working on this, I think that you and what's his name need to make sure that you get some
I
concrete
apologize,
data
Patrick.
on-
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I just had an aha moment because I found the answer to your question. So I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so you can go ahead and speak then.
Yeah, so it's actually in the agreement, and I knew it was written in here. So it is called a declaration of restrictions. So the technical mechanism that we are using here is an executed declaration of restrictions that shall be recorded in the land records.
Okay, so as long as it's in the document that's what it says, and then that's what's been signed off on, and that's fine.
But I
I've
like
never-
sorry.
Go ahead, Jason.
I like your point though, which is, Derek, it would be great to get an update on like whether indeed it has been recorded in the land restrictions. Like the recorded part is the part where I'm not sure that that's happened or not yet.
So it says, following the approval of the petition by the zoning commission and the expiration of all appeal periods without an appeal being filed. So I have to check with Lila because I'm pretty sure we're in an appeal period right now. But once that has extinguished itself, it is her duty to go ahead and file that. And hopefully it'll be the version as amended so that we don't have to do any rework.
So that is in connection with the extraction you're talking about.
That is in connection with the map amendment. So
Which-
what changed
yeah.
the zoning, the underlying zoning? So that ultimately the agreement we have with the LPCA is related to the map amendment. It has a lot of details around the hospital and it's related to the extraction, references the potential for an extraction. But it is specific to the map amendment.
The map amendment has already gone through zoning and is just waiting for them to write an order, correct?
And I think again that the final sat down was in the middle of last month. So I think it's a 45-day appeals period, but I'll have to go back and check. Should have our counsel on this line, but she wasn't able to join us tonight.
It's usually a little bit longer than that. All right, so then my last question, and I'll stop, is was that filed, the original one that you signed off on, it's been amended, it obviously has not, was that filed with the map amendment to the zoning commission?
I'm pretty sure it was incorporated into our filing package. I'll have to check with our counsel on that specific answer, but it was heavily featured in our case and in all the conversations and discussions.
Okay, so then, can you just tell me, Derek, because I can't remember, what is the case number for the map amendment? Is that 14? 15G?
No, well, no, that
Was
was
that was a totally new case?
no. It was the first case of last year. So it was like 24-01. I want to say, hold on, I can find it.
I think Cynthia Giordano was interested in adding some, and I think adding some context to this conversation. So while you're looking for that information, Derek, why don't you go ahead, Cynthia?
Okay, I just wanted to say it's a 30-day appeal process, and the agreement is in the map amendment case record.
Great.
Yeah. And it is 24-01. That's right.
What I thought it was. Okay. All right.
Great.
Sorry to be a pain in the butt, but just make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's.
Keep me on my toes, Patrick. I'm getting sick, so I told you I was off my game tonight. I apologize.
Yeah, so I think I added the link to the actual document in the chat, and it you can't open it for some reason.
It opens.
Oh, great. Okay.
The
Fabulous.
secondary one opens. Thank you.
So we will that's up on the zoning ZPD's website. So it's available to any of us who'd like to review. It is 8:45, so I just want to see if anyone else has any additional questions for the Howard folks. All right.
Cynthia, is this case already assigned? I know that you and I had talked about when you were filing for it, but has it been assigned a date yet?
No, it has not.
Okay, that's what I thought. So then nothing needs to happen tonight then.
We're filing it imminently. It hasn't been filed, but as Derek indicated, the next case number would be the F case.
F case. Okay, that's fine.
I did have a question,
Great.
and it's for Teresa in regards to, and it's a short question in regards to the Sandlot. I did a walkthrough, and of course, I want to just commend Ian for making sure that all that debris and stuff that was always cast on the side of that gate has been. It was really clean, which was amazing to see. But I'm looking forward to the grand opening or the soft launch that you all are planning. But I really never did see a public safety plan. I've asked for that several times. I know that you all have had what's the guy, um, the gentleman that I spoke to before with you and Teresa about public safety for that location, and I had not heard from you.
Declan Kingland.
Declan, I knew I
Mhm.
knew it was a pony name, Declan Pony. Declan. I'm sorry, that's my word association. I the Declan, you never got back to us in regards to the public safety, and that's really a critical issue in regards to how that entire rollout of that location is concerned, because I know that you guys are concerned about all of that, as well as you I know this is outside of this committee, but the alcohol license, and there were some other questions pertaining to that. I just want to know what's the actual status of the public safety plan, and when am I going to receive it? Because I did ask for it personally.
You did, Karen, and I'm sorry that that hasn't gotten to you. Actually, it's Ian is responsible for creating that public safety plan. I know that he has spoken about, having his own, he'll be hiring private security for it, for when there are events. Now it won't be open every night, every day. You understand that? It's only going to be used when there are events. That's the first thing. But when there are events, like I said, he does intend as he has told me, to hire private security. But I can text him right after this, and I'll make sure we get that to you. Because yes, you are right. That was supposed to have gotten
Yeah,
to you
and
a long time ago.
I didn't want to get into that mode of, okay, the lack of confidence mode, but I really felt, that it's been a very long time, and I felt Jason's pain when he was saying what he was saying.
Right.
And I could tell you that, considering that I had to wait this long for something that was really, really lightweight, I'm very disappointed that I didn't get that right away. Thank
Okay.
you.
I apologize that you didn't get that. I wish you had followed up with me a little sooner, that you hadn't gotten it, because I thought that Ian had supplied you with that. I will say this: the chief of police, I don't know if you all know, but the chief did do a walkthrough about 2 weeks, maybe 3 at this point. The chief of police, and she came on a day when it was warm, and she got a full view of what was going on in that that block and in its environs. And I don't know if you've noticed that it has gotten a little better since then.
Yeah.
The past 3 weeks, there have been 2 police cars on T, one by the Langston and one across the street by the Wells Fargo.
Mhm.
It's been pretty cleared up there. Unfortunately, the activity has moved up the street to the bus stop
Great.
in front of the hospital. That's the new location.
Oh.
But and I know that this commission is also working very closely with ABCA to get the Shaw what's it called, Shaw House,
Howard
the
Deli.
epicenter, yeah, that business to get them, out of there. So I will get that plan to you.
Yeah, because when she came through, we had did a really extensive walkthrough of that block, and you actually pointed out something. I definitely understand how everything went from that day, but the next thing is the Langston. There, I know that when is the last time you guys did a walk around the building? There was a lot of safety issues with some railings and stuff around that site. The Department of Buildings took a look at it and they did some inspections around it, but I don't know if they've gotten in touch with you all about some it was some critical, like, great type issues where railings were not really put down properly. I don't know who does that on your team, Derek, acquisitions VP.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's for us to get in touch with the developer about that.
exactly. Yeah. So that's a
Yeah.
developer-driven project. So the university, we own the land under it, but we leased it to the developer. So they have control over it for the foreseeable future.
Yes,
But
And
I,
again, they secured their own permits. They deal with the city directly in terms of inspections and everything else. So we can go as the owner and go and ask and see
correct.
what's
yes.
going on.
Please do,
Yeah.
because we did when we were doing the walkthrough with the chief, and it was just I personally, you guys know I use my mobility device, and so we were just noticing a lot of little shoddy type things going on around on the outside perimeter of that property that doesn't look like it's great for public safety spacing for any of the citizens walking around that area. So I'm just giving you a heads up so it doesn't become a liability in the future. Okay? But that's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Appreciate
No
that.
problem.
Okay.
Thanks, Karen. Frank, you have one question, and then I think maybe we can let our friends from Howard go
Yep.
home for the night.
Yeah, first an easy question, and you might not have the answer because it has to do with leasing. But the Oddfellows at it's about 1947, 1954 Ninth Street at the corner of T and Ninth North or Southeast corner. You know the Oddfellows, of course, both of you. Do you know what the leasing issue is there? You guys are still under a long-term lease? Because I know you've recently moved out a bunch of offices. Are you moving back in? And can you guys talk on the record about the lease on that building and how long it lasts? Or can I follow up with you on that on the
Yeah.
side?
Well, I mean, just to save time, I want to say that there's probably 5 more years left on the tail of that lease. I think there are some options to renew that I have to go and check and see what the details are on that because they're in the out years. So that I hope that answers your question. And
Yeah.
again, if I'm gonna go and look it up when I send you the information about the emergency vehicle stuff,
Yeah.
I'll also if there's a correction needed, I'll make sure to make that correction.
All right, and thank you. And one last quick one. It's the tougher question, and I just want to, and I'm sorry to harp on both of you, but it's an important matter regarding the old CVS location currently being repurposed, and the Sandlot folks has to do with noise levels, acoustic sound, and timing on that. I again apologize for bringing this here, but it's important to the adjacent property owner, the Shea, who rents out that building. If you guys do exterior events, and I know this is a matter of the alcohol license and the gentleman, the good upstanding citizen Ian Callender, who will be managing and owns Sandlots. But I'd like to hear from you folks that you can weigh in on sound mitigation and noise as the owner of the property, as a steward in the community. Some kind of just verbal commitment that you'll work with the neighborhood. I know you always do, but I just want to hear it on the record again because it's that important in a location that is under a lot of stress, as we all know. And appreciate whatever you can offer there. Thank you.
You want me?
Teresa, you're closer to that than I am, to be frank. I mean, on the operational
Sure.
side.
Well, of course, Frank, as Ian mentioned, he does, he has the sound measuring device that he used over in Georgetown and at his other locations. And he said he will monitor it for sure, and that none of them have ever gone as loud as, past what the district says that you can go past. I don't know what it is, but I know that the district has a a limit for how loud you can be outdoors. And yes, absolutely, we will monitor it. If there are complaints, Ian and I have already texted him about Karen, waiting for Karen's ask, Ms. Gall's ask. So I will bring that to his attention again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
promise.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Everybody on this call have my contact information. I'll put it in the chat.
That would be great.
For sure.
And I have your contact information, Teresa. So if anyone has questions, I'm happy to forward them along to you, and likewise. All right. Any other questions for our folks from Howard? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So thank you both. Thank all three of you very much for joining us. I really appreciate the update. And Derek, for any of those questions that you have that you're responding to, if you want to send them to me and then I can pass them along to the committee, that's totally fine. If you have the contact information for the committee members who asked that, you can also email them directly. But I'm happy to be a conduit if that is helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
I'll be seeing you soon. Bye-bye.
Good evening.
Good evening. All right, everyone. So that brings us to the end of our agenda today. Our sort of, I guess we have to go over new business, don't we? So I will ask right now if there's any new business. I don't have any that I know of, and I'm wondering if anyone has any specific new business they'd like to discuss before we adjourn for the day. Frank?
Not new business, but I appreciate the conversation on the zoning with the zoning administrator. Thank you for helping, bring this
Thank
to
you.
the table.
I did very little to get her here, Frank. It was all you.
Well, the conversation's long overdue, important, and continues to be important, such as the point that the 35-year ago code and/or it's been amended a few times, but the 50% cap that has to do just with the first floor is sort of it's been obsolete probably for 30 years in the sense that it doesn't control traffic, it doesn't control the pressure on the surrounding community. That the arts overlay, one of 4 precepts to establish it was to protect the surrounding neighborhoods. All right, and it's failed in that regard deeply. And so I'd like to just figure out, and I'll talk to you, Christian. I think you'll be accepting the chair or the role as chair going forward. I presume I haven't talked to you personally, but I know you're interested. But would like to continue that conversation and what we can do with a comprehensive plan with respect to the overlay, but and/or any interim measures we might talk and discuss and further here. So thank you for your openness.
I'm sure we will have plenty more opportunities to discuss. And I do appreciate her note about the comp plan. That's a good note to keep in mind. All right. I think unless anybody else has any new business they want to bring up, I think we can adjourn for the day.
Okay.
Awesome.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. Night.